Hi, welcome back. It's Gary here again, and in this video I'm going to attempt to make a cart path and a fence for my Jack Nicklaus Perfect Golf designed course, which I shall be doing in Course Forge. So let's crack on with that and let's bring you straight into Course Forge. So what we're planning to do here is we're going to put in a cart path on the 18th hole that's going to run round from here. It's going to run from here all the way around to there and up to the fairway. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the texture of the cart path to make it look like sorry, to put it in where I want it to go. So I normally open up Course Forge, first tab over, go into my brush tool, pick my cart path, which I believe is this one. My brush size is going to be 5. My opacity and target strength I'm turning up quite high, and I'm just going to paint in where I want the cart path to go. So avoiding the dunes and finish up somewhere near the fairway about there. Now if I turn on Course Forge and just have a look, make sure I haven't hit any splines, and we're all good. So if you look at it now, you can see the cart path painted on, but you wouldn't be able to run a buggy or a trolley along that. So the way that I like to flatten it, you could go, I guess, and just select here and flatten the terrain a bit, and then select a bit and flatten the terrain a bit. But the way I like to go about it is by using EasyRoads. Now, if EasyRoads were a better program, I'd just use it and lay the cart path down with it. But I think that the paths look completely unrealistic, in my opinion. Especially for a links course, you need something that's a little bit more natural and not like a tarmac path that's been laid. But I do use EasyRoads, and I'll show you how I do it. So I'm going to import the package. Let's find it. So there's my EasyRoads package being imported. So we're just waiting for that all to come in. It takes a little while, but not too long. Right, and when that's imported, you should find that if you go to Game Object, takes a minute to update, and then create other, and then you've got your EasyRoads here. So I want to create a new EasyRoads 3D object and create object, and if you look over on this side, basically you click on this first one to add road markers, and then you just hold down shift and you're just adding in a marker that follows the path of your cart path. So just follow it all the way around up to the fairway, and there you go. Now what you do is you click this button in the middle here, which processes the terrain and creates the EasyRoad geometry. So we'll just insert that in now. Takes a minute to do, but basically what I'm doing here is laying down the road, and what EasyRoads does for you is it flattens off the terrain around where your road has been laid, or your path. So if you can see now, although you've got an ugly looking road or cart path there, you've actually flattened the terrain around it, so it's more realistic. And now what I do is simply go into the hierarchy down here and just delete this road object. And now what I've got is I have my road or my cart path flattened to the terrain. Now the one thing you have to make sure that you do is when you've finished with it, before you go to build your course, you have to delete EasyRoads out of your folder, of your hierarchy, your assets folder, because otherwise the course won't compile correctly, because there's a script in EasyRoads that it doesn't like. So basically there, as you can see, we've now created a nice cart path that follows the contours of the terrain and looks quite good. So what we can do now is we can just smooth off some of the surrounding terrain around here, just to blend it in a little bit better with the terrain. Obviously you'll have to just rebuild your splines here, because the terrain's been moved slightly. Let's put them in, and then if we look, that's pretty good. Probably might want to just pull it up a bit, or just maybe smooth it out a bit, because the path is going above the tee box here. It doesn't quite look right, so I'll probably just smooth that out considerably and just bring the terrain up around there, so it's not quite as unrealistic. Bring it up around there as well. So now it's, if I rebuild those splines again, that looks better. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a fence in along this line here. So to do that, I'm going to use my 3D package, which I use Cinema 4D, and what I've got that you can't actually see is I've got two screens. So I'm going to drag over my Unity file, and I'm going to pull up my Cinema 4D file, and in here you can see that I've already drawn a spline. Now what I've done is used my course overhead as a reference, which is sat on the other side or on my other screen, and I've also got in here a cube, which I will show you, which I've designed for the other fences, and that's just a basic cube that I have just altered the shape on slightly. So I've just dragged a few bits in, made it more of a triangular shape, and if you look at that, if I go and look at the properties of this cube, I can see that it's got here 18 polygons, which is pretty low and isn't going to impact very much at all on your overall course. So what you do here is you've got your spline and you've got your cube. Now you need to go to your MoGraph options and select a cloner, and then you need to drag your cube into your cloner. Now what that does, if I just select the cloner here, is at the moment it's giving you 3 iterations of your fence post, and they are set at 50 centimeter intervals on the y-axis. Now that's not going to do any good at all for what you're actually trying to design. So what I'm trying to do is get these fence posts to run along the length of my spline. So the way you do that is you change the mode here to object, and in the object box you get your spline and you drag it in, and now what you will see is that you have dragged in, or your fence post objects are being presented along the spline that you've designed. So what I now want to do is I want them at intervals. So if I click in here, it's not in there. Well, if I actually go to here and I say, right, I want to up the objects, I can push them up as much as I want. So I'm starting to get much more of a fancy feel here. Now I believe if I put them at even, There you go, they're now distributed evenly along that spline. I'll try and get one more in at the end there. I'm not sure if I can. It's probably to do with this end part. Can I go over 100? Or maybe offset it. There you go. So now if you look, I've got my fence, although it's not offset at the beginning. But you get the point anyway, and I can actually resolve that in a moment. So now what I'm going to do, just to have a quick look, is to export this into my Unity folder and see how it looks actually on the course. So to do that, I'd click File, Export, and then FBX, and I'm going to save this in as Fence 2. Save that, OK that, and now I'm going to drag my Unity folder back over, my Unity project back over, and now you'll see that if I go to my models folder, which is where I've been saving them, models, there's my Fence 2 model. Now if I drag that on and just double click on it so I can zoom in and have a look at where I'm at, and as you can see, that's way too small. So on the models here, you'll see that I've put a scale factor of 10 for each of the original two. So this one I'll just change to 10, and hit apply down here. Okay, and now that should have boosted up that fence. Where is it? There we go. Alright, and let's drag that along and take a look, and I can see that we are currently back to front on that. I think it's the wrong way around, so let's just turn this round to reflect that. Drag it in place, and it's not a bad attempt. It's almost matched up to where it should be, but not quite. So what we do is just get it so get it roughly where I want it. It's also way too long because I don't want it to overrun here. I want it to start somewhere around about here. So we can go back into Cinema 4D, and we can select on the overhead view, and if I select my spline here and delete that point, let's drag that out a bit. Oh, the other thing I should have done, which I didn't do, is if I select all the points here and then right click and select soft interpolation, it puts more of a curve on all the points, so you're not getting those jagged edges. So let's open up Unity again and take a quick look. So that's okay. Pulled that down a bit. Right. So perhaps I just want to pull that up a bit. That one up a little bit so it's a bit of a smoother transition. Pull that one up a bit. Okay, so and if you see as I'm doing that, it's amending it on the cloner as well. So if I were to select this spline and just pull that over, it's pulling it over as well with the cloned objects attached to it. So what we're going to do is we will export that again. FBX, Fence 2, save. Yeah, so we're overwriting the original, and now when I bring Unity back up, you can see it's automatically amended it in that. So we're getting ever closer to what we want. So now I can see that just here it pulls in a little bit more. That's not too bad. I need to perhaps pull it in there and just pull it out there a little bit and shorten this off again. So here we'll just move that over a tad. Pull it up a little bit more. Let's do it in the overhead view, it's easier. So just move that one over a little bit so it's a more of a smoother transition. And then I think, what was it? What did we say? Up here, pulling it in a bit, pulling it up a bit, pulling some down a bit. one down a bit. Okay, again, let's export that. Fence 2, save. Okay. So I'm actually getting slightly further away each time from what I want. So what I might do here is just pause the video and just get it how I want it and then come back. Okay, so after some adjustments, we've managed to get it looking roughly how we want it to look. There's a few issues with it. Mainly, I'm not sure why these three here and that one there are leaning so much, but other than that, it looks quite good. I'm going to leave it like that, make it look like it's a bit broken, which might add to it. So that's the basic spline of the fence set into position. I've had to move some points up and down and in and out, so but we've got there. Now what we need to do is we need to make the fence post look a little bit more random, and also we need to add in a rail. So back in Cinema 4D, the way you do this is on your cloner, you select here on your MoGraph, effector and random. Okay, and then what you do is on your cloner where you've got effectors, you select that tab and drag your random in. Now at the moment that looks completely mad. Obviously that isn't going to work, but the way that it works is if you click on your parameter here, you've got, at the moment it's giving it a random effect on the position, and you don't want that. You just want a random effect on the rotation, and then just by slightly moving these, probably too much there, sort of just a few degrees, you're giving yourself a random effect. So if I go into here, I've given myself a random effect on the fence posts, so they're all just ever so slightly off, which I think looks quite good. That's that bit done, and then to put a fence, a railing along it, we just copy out this spline by hitting Control and dragging, and then we've got a second spline, and that's now running along where we want it to run. I'm going to move it up slightly, so I'll just move it. Oops, that's moving the point. I don't want to do that. I'll just move the spline up slightly. It's a bit of a pain. What I could do is just click on that, drag my axis over into the middle, and then I can get a better view of where I'm putting it. So somewhere around about there. Okay, now that won't show up at all in Unity because it's just a spline, there's nothing on it. So what we need to do is we need to run something along that spline to make it look like it's actually the wire that's holding the fence together. So in here we select a sweep nerve, and back in here we select a circle. Okay, now what you do here is you get your sweep nerve to the top, and you put your circle under it, and you put your spline under it as well. And so at the moment it looks like nothing's happened. If I move that above, you can see a huge circle now is sweeping along that spline, okay, which looks awful. So you just need to bring the size of your circle down to say 1 centimeter. And now if you look, you can see you've got a 1 centimeter circle running along. So you want to bring that down to maybe 0.2. And that kind of looks like a wire, maybe 0.15. Oops. And now that kind of looks like there's a wire running through each of the fence posts. So the next thing to do is to assign it textures. Now as these textures are already in Unity assigned, they're going to show up immediately, but I'll show you how to do that when you get into Unity. So we're going to assign a fence wood texture to our cube, which is our post, and it actually already has one on, so let's worry about that. And to our sweetener, we're going to assign our fence metal texture, like that. And then we'll export that out. Again, as fence 2. And that's exported out. And now when we bring Unity up, there you can see we've got sort of a interesting looking thing going on. And there's your fence running along, and as you can see, it's all at slightly different angles. I've got this issue here, I'm not sure, it's to do with moving the splines, where we've got the 3 that look like they've fallen off, which actually don't look too bad, and we've got the one at the beginning almost that looks like it's fallen off as well. That one's sort of they're floating in space ever so slightly. So what you can do with that is you can either go back into here, into your C4D, and you can just amend that spline again just by dragging the point down. So we'll just do that a little bit. See, whoops, that's the wrong spline. Dragging that point down just to see how that works. The only problem with that is now you've added this second spline and it won't run alongside it, so you'll have to move that one as well if you did any major movement. But so just export that back out again. You can see it's pulled it down a bit. The other thing you can do, which tends to be probably what I would do, which is the best fit, is just to move your terrain to match. So just turn that right down, and just pull the terrain up. Oops. Okay, so when it does that, just if it does do that and you're struggling, just double click on your fence to bring it back to where you were roughly. So yeah, just pull up the terrain a little bit to match. If there are any areas where perhaps your terrain is a bit high, just looking through, seem to have done a reasonable job actually. It's a bit high there perhaps, so just put it down a bit. And there we go. And as you can see, it's already given the wood texture and the metal texture to my fence. And the way you do that is if you actually go into your materials, every material that you create in Cinema 4D, so here, down here, every material that you create here, when you export it, it shows up in here. So if you look at the fence wood, for instance, there's your material. And what you can do is, I downloaded these materials here from the internet and just turned them around. So I just rotated that one 90 degrees. And basically, there's the fence one. So basically what I did was, you just select on your fence wood, you click in the albedo, and then you select that material into it, and that's all you do. You could create a normal map for that, but since they're quite small, there's no point. And basically that there is our cart path and our fence finished. So what I might do as well here perhaps is I'll probably put some grass around the fence just to hide some of the bits at the bottom so it doesn't look quite so obvious. And I may, as there seem to be sort of some vertical drops, little vertical drops here, I might just use that opportunity just to paint in some texturing of some description, maybe make it quite strong. I might go for this one actually, and just a bit stronger than that. Just paint that in, just so it looks, because often when you get banks, they're slightly, they're not covered in grass. Just paint that round. Maybe paint some of this round here as well. Just where you've got the steep drop, you know, maybe paint a bit of this over the top, just to break it up. Yeah, that looks okay, not too bad there. Yeah, so, and there, if you look at that, you've now got your cart path and your fence. Now, the one thing that I've been meaning to do here actually is, I've got a feeling I've just painted that one on, haven't I? That's actually my cart path texture. Now, if I do what I want to do, that's going to make an amendment to that. So let's just quickly just go and paint over the top of this a little bit. So let's just darken it down a bit. I don't want it to be that obvious. Yeah, so one thing I did think is that my cart path texture is a bit dark. I want to lighten that up a bit. So the way that you can do that is, this is the one that I've been using. So if I go to edit textures here and then click on that, it brings up the texture in here. Now, if I double click on that, that's going to open it up for me in Photoshop. Okay, so now I've got this texture loaded up in Photoshop. I can edit the image and just brighten it up a bit. Go mental, and I might desaturate it a bit as well, just to get rid of some of the green so it looks a little bit more like it's been walked on. So adjustments and hue and saturation, just desaturate it down a little bit, drop off the lightness a tiny bit. Okay, and then I'm going to save that. Now again, I recommend that you save a copy if you want to keep the original, but I'm just going to save that as it is. And now when you look, it's just lightened it up. So now the definition of the cart paths are a lot better against the terrain, and that'll do that now for all of the cart paths that I've painted. It'll lighten them all up. So what we'll do now is we will build the course and we'll have a look at how it is in the game. So here we are back in the game, and as you can see, this is the original version, or the previous version without the cart path in, and this is the version now with the cart path in. As you can see, I think it looks, you know, it's added something to it. So anyway, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and see you again.